Y'all, I'm Hope here at Crafty Hope and welcome. I'm working again in this little cardboard junk journal that I made. It's mostly book pages that are in here, and because of the size of books, you can see I've turned them sideways. I mentioned in my last video that I am working on creating little packets of that and maybe even a tutorial on how I made this journal. So I'm going to start, as I do with most things, with some collage. I did get a little messy with my fluid matte medium there, so I'm trying to clean it up a bit. So what was I gonna say? These book pages, some of them are, it's so funny when you get vintage book pages, some of them are so like thick and almost like watercolor paper, and some are thin and brittle and that kind of thing. But I like that, you can kind of collage around it, have some of the text peek through, and it's just a really nice substrate to have those different colors and ways to use them. So as you can see, I am going ahead and collaging this one. Mostly I want to cover up the purple strips I've got on the side, but really doesn't matter because I know they're there and they are still going to kind of peek through. So I'm going to end up bringing a little bit of that like purple color in. So and this, I'll go ahead and tell you, this journal, I've been playing with the idea of using a new way to, like, a lot of times when I start a junk journal page or an art journal page, I just jump in, do it all intuitively. And granted, I am absolutely doing that, but I often wonder what if I start with a focal or start with a sentiment to kind of spur some of the decisions I make. And I'm going to like play with that a little once I get my collage down. So you'll see how I do that in just a second. So I'm putting other types of book papers in general down on here, using lots of that fluid medium, along with this like silicone spreader tool and you can see it's a key card there to help like flatten things down to kind of prevent as much bubbling as I can. Once I get a bulk of like some of those typed book pages that I've got, I'm using some, I can't think what this is called. First I'm trying to cover up part of the edge there and it's slipping all over the place. But I've got this, I think it's called like collage tissue or something. And this is the Postale postage. I will have it below for you. It's a Tim Holtz product. This particular one, I don't know if you can still get because it's from the longer rolls, and now he's got like these shorter ones that come in these like plastic tubes. So anyway, it's some of that collage paper, and with the fluid medium, when you use that, the white parts of it kind of disappear. So this is what I'm doing. I'm going to prompt myself with a sentiment. So I have reached into this is a old instant coffee can that I have. Anytime I clip words or stamp words or things like that, I throw them in there. And so I just kind of reached in and pulled out one of the little sentiments, and it said the early years. So I thought, okay, that will help inspire kind of the direction of this. And I can't say that it completely inspired it definitely inspired what I end up choosing as a focal, but really this background is all kinds of all over the place. So I'm putting some marks down just with acrylic craft paint. This is an apple barrel. I think it's just called brown. Again, I'll put it below for you and I thought for a minute trying to figure out what it was I wanted to do, and I decided to grab I believe this is just a ballpoint pen, and go around each of these marks I made. Y'all, I try not to do this. This is one of those things that I do over and I guess maybe it's part of my style, but anytime I put these like random marks across a page, I feel the urge to like outline them. And I don't know why. So sometimes I do it with water soluble things and sometimes I don't. And this one is a little water soluble, but not completely. So I've got some Distress Oxide spray in, I believe that's Seedless preserves. And I start by just splattering it with the stem of the sprayer. Because I didn't want it to go crazy. I didn't want to cover the page. But I'm going to start to dry this and then go Oh, wait, I do want this color to be a little more prominent. Since the Distress products are water reactive, I grabbed my Distress sprayer and go ahead and activate that Seedless preserve just a little bit. You see, I didn't get too crazy with it. Um, but from there, once I got all of that dry, I've grabbed a Uniball Signo white, not white, that is gold. It is a gold gel pen, and did a little bit of like free form scribbling around on the page just to add a touch of movement, and it went beautifully over the top of like those brown marks I made, so I really liked that. So this is the photo I have selected to go with that sentiment prompt of the early years. You can kind of see over there on the left, I've pulled in other things because I played with a bunch of stuff off camera trying to figure out what I wanted to do for focal here, and ended up deciding on this picture of two little girls in their swimsuits. This is probably from the 50s or the 60s, and they're being silly, and I don't know, it felt fun. It felt, the early years, I'm thinking they're young. So here's me playing with some more of those things, trying to find different ways I can use it. I'm going to end up pulling out my fabric scraps here. And I think I almost immediately go for a piece of tablecloth here. This is a linen tablecloth. And I think I'm going to, is there a hole in it already? I'm going to put a hole in it if not. So I am playing with it, trying to look at it like, what do I think? I'm realizing that Distress Oxide spray, some of the Distress products don't ever really dry, kind of like an oil pastel. They'll stay wet forever and ever, and I don't know why. I've tried blotting it and just drying it with the heat tool, but sometimes they just stay wet. The best thing I found to do with it sometimes is to throw a little bit of embossing powder on top of it. I didn't do it this time, but every once in a while I will. So I have decided to use that linen tablecloth. You can see I'm tearing it down, and from there I think I'm going to fold it in half and kind of I've just snipped a little hole there that I am going to do everything I can to try to pull it apart to kind of make it become a frame for that photo. And y'all, this was, I felt like I was more stretching that fabric really than tearing it, because it didn't seem to make any kind of tearing sound. It just kind of kept stretching wider, and it was taking all the strength I had to do this. So I don't know why this was so strong, but hey, it was. So you can see I keep snipping a little bit, just trying to get it wider, and I ended up really kind of making it almost too wide, and I can see gaps between the fabric and my photo, and I was like, ugh, no, I've got to back my photo with something. So I am going to take a bit of a book page. This is like, when you get a book and at the front, like first page of it, I'm sure there's a term for it. Before you get to like the title page, there's just like a blank page. That's what some of this is. When I tore apart books for those, what I said, book packs, those book page packs I've been working on, I kept all those blank pages. So, I've got several of these, so I like to use them like for this manner, as well as like it's neat distressed fabric to type on as well with my typewriter. So it's got the aging and everything to it. Sometimes it has like writing and stuff on it, and yeah. So that's all I'm using here. You can see I tore it down just a little bit, use my Uhu glue stick to stick the photo on, and then I am outlining that photo with the glue stick and then sticking the fabric right into it. And I failed to mention, I did ink up the edges of that photo with some walnut stain distress ink. And of course that doesn't really show except where those like gaps were that I've now kind of like covered up with this fabric. Yeah. Whatever. The backing paper kind of prevents you from seeing the gap so much. So I did tear down that backing paper just a little bit more. I'm picking up different things that are on my desk, trying to see. I've got a couple buttons I'm putting down, and I'm like, ooh, a button would add that 3D element that I always really like in things. So I went and grabbed my little container of brown buttons, trying to echo like those brown spots that I made. This one still had like the little staple from the button card it had been on, so I snipped that off, and I'm going to grab some thread that's just in my pin cushion. I think it's just some black thread, yeah. And of course, I've got to futz a little and look at things and decide how I like it. And the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and ink the edges of that paper that's kind of around the outside. It also gets on the edges of the fabric too, and I'm okay with that. I'm just fine with that. It was more about giving that little bit of shadow. Now, I decided I wanted to push back that busy background a bit. So I put down some, this is like a beige color of acrylic paint that I'm going to brayer here onto the background, really trying to tame the chaos, because that whole background felt so busy. And while that picture is going to be the calm and the storm, I just needed it to not be so crazy. So now I'm getting that black thread from my pin cushion. I'll tie a knot in it and then do just a simple stitch to stitch that button down. It's only got 2 holes on it. It'll be fine. And I'm doing it, as you can see, just on this focal piece and not on the page. I could, but it could risk tearing it, and and sometimes that just, I don't know. I try not to stitch on the actual pages if I don't have to, oftentimes, just to kind of hold up their integrity, to not mess up next pages. It's an overthinking thing for sure, y'all. I do tend to overthink most things. So, I'm going to grab some of that. It's a Beacon 3-in-1, I think. First I'm going to trim down my little sentiment, the early years, and ink it up as well. And we're getting, it was really like a 40-minute process, but with my like cutting things down and speeding them up, you're getting a fairly small, short video. So that's, I felt like I needed a little bit of brightening up on this page, something not so muddy feeling. So I am using my Bic whiteout pen to just go in with some little marks and dots, really to lift everything. Some of these are not going to ever be seen once I put down that sentiment and do my last couple steps, and you'll see what that is. There was, I will admit to you, points of this where I stopped the camera and took a picture of my layout with my phone so that I could like get a better idea of what it was missing, what felt busy, and I don't know why that works. Sometimes if you look at it on a different screen or from a different perspective, you can kind of see where the mistakes and problems are. I don't know why I was trying to look at that previous page. I think I wanted to see if it was too much alike or anything like that. So here's that 3-in-1 glue that I'm using, just putting on the back of that paper, sticking that down. I'll go ahead and use it as well on my sentiment, because that is a piece of like 3x5 card, but like an old one that used to be like cardstock. It's not the new ones that are floppy. So I've glued that down, and like I said, I stopped and I looked at this for a while and realized it was still just too busy. So I got some golden acrylic paint in Titan Buff, and I am going to paint that on a couple of areas to give some places for the eye to rest, some places that feel a little bit more calm. It just still felt so busy. I didn't want to cover up my entire background, but I wanted some calming places. And once I get it down and dried, I'm going to look at it again. I took another picture with my camera to see what else it needed. And the places of calm were nice, but they were almost too bland. So I grabbed my Stabilo all pencil in black, and I'm going to wet a paintbrush and just kind of flick that Stabilo on my page, especially on those areas that I put that Titan Buff down. And once I get that on there and dry, this little page will be done. It was a new way to approach things for me. I think my next one, I'm going to do the same thing and use, pull out a sentiment and yeah, try to work from there. So, which comes up with some interesting results. So definitely come back, check out what else I am sharing, and let me know what you think of this. How do you start a page? Do you start with a sentiment or a focal or something like that, or do you just dive into it too? I'm just trying to learn some new ways to go about things. Anyway, if y'all like this, you know what to do. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I will see y'all later. Thanks for watching. Bye.